What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO, legend, and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing well and taking care of yourselves. So today we're going to talk about an amazing UFO crash that happened in Bulgaria, of all places, way back in 1953. And this story is crazy because it is not what you think. It is not the aliens you think. It is not the people you might think. It is wild. And how America actually gets it back to America is even crazier. So, in 1953, a kind of standard flying disc basically crashes into a Bulgarian farmer's property. And he's looking out and he's like, oh, interesting. That's not supposed to be there. He hears this loud boom, goes out of his farmhouse, and out in the distance he sees this decently large craft. So he decides to go out and check it out and see what's going on. And this is 1953. This isn't like, the year 2000 or 2020 where we're very familiar with flying saucers. But he went out there and checked it out, and he said, wow, this is pretty wild. So he called the police in, and the police checked it out, and they were like, well, we don't not quite sure what to do with this. And the government came in, and they're like, we're not quite sure what to do with this. And for some reason or another, America got contacted. I don't know why. I don't know if America contacted them, but according to this story, and this was told by Richard Doty, who is a Air Force officer, Special Investigations officer, he said that they contacted the U.S. I don't know, maybe they knew that we had some experience with crash ships or weird things, or that we were, experimenting with aircraft. I really don't know. But if they actually indeed did call us, that would be really weird. So anyway, America gets involved, and America's like, okay, we need to get this thing back to America. We can't examine it in this farmer's field. Air Force Office of Special Investigations went out there. They had teams from Germany. Doty stated teams from Germany came out. Teams from all over Italy came over, but they were American teams and examined this thing. They're like, we need to get it back. So they kind of did like an Army Corps of Engineers kind of mission to get this thing back. They couldn't just bring in helicopters, apparently, for some reason or another. I don't know. Maybe we didn't have those Tomahawks, that can carry large amounts of weight back in 53. So this is the story. I don't know every aircraft and when it was released or whatever. Maybe it was. And anyway, the point is that this is the story, and the story goes like this. They wanted to get it down the Danube River out into the I believe it was the Black Sea. It's the sea. I'm trying to think of which sea it was. And if they could get it into the sea, then they could ship it back to America. So the Danube went through all that area, through Bulgaria. It went all the way up through a lot of Europe, and they had to negotiate because there was only certain countries that could get this craft out. And I'm getting to who's in the craft. Okay, we'll get there. There was no aliens or no entities outside of the craft just yet. It was perfectly sealed, actually. It just looked like it had crashed. And so there's no holes, no nothing. So they eventually figure out that they're going to put a barge into the river, and that they're going to get this thing hoisted up onto a flatbed and get it over to the river, and then somehow get it onto a ship and get it the hell out of there. So they do, and they get it onto the ship, and then they realize, oh, this ship's too small. We need a larger ship. So they have to haul in a whole new ship and bring it in, and then they get it on that ship. They take the ship through, and I can't remember which country they said they were, because it was kind of like Lord of War, where they flew the Dutch flag and then they flipped it over, or they were flying the France flag and then they flipped it over and it was the Dutch flag. It was pretty interesting, pretty smart on their part, but America did the same trick. So they were pretending they were some other country, and then they actually got held up at one point by a general in one of the countries that was not friendly. There was a lot of communist countries over there at that point. This is 53 we're talking about. So one of the communist countries held them up, and they were like, "What do you got? Who is this? What, you guys sound like you're Americans. What's going on here?" And they held them up, and basically our intelligence officers threatened them and said, "Hey, you're going to spark off a war with America, the America that just won World War II, and that we are on a timetable to get this thing back. And if we don't get this thing back on time, it's basically going to start off a war. So you better let us go." And the general kind of sat there for a second. And he's like, "All right, well, I don't want to mess with America, so go ahead." And so they get it out of there, they get it back, and there is no Area 52 to bring it back to. They have to bring it back to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. That's the only place that has the Air Force Technical Division, which was also part of this whole operation to get the aircraft back. Now they get it back, and the aircraft isn't as large as you would think it was. When they started off this story, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a huge craft. It actually wasn't that big. It was about 9 feet wide by something tall. I think he said, like, I don't know, maybe 7 feet tall, something like that. So not like the largest craft in the world. But you got to remember, when you get into these things, the inside is so much larger than the outside. There's some sort of time disturbance or space disturbance fluctuation that increases the size inside of the craft when you get in there. It doesn't matter if it's powered or not, it seems like, even. So anyway, they get it back. It's sealed. How are these scientists going to get in there? They're working with 1953 tools and knowledge. It's not like they had gained tons of information from 8 crashed ships yet. So they worked on this thing for 3 weeks, and they finally opened it up. And when they opened it up, they didn't say what type of technology they used to open it up. But when they opened it up, they found, I believe he said 5 bodies. It's either 3 or 5. I want to say 5 bodies that were 5 feet tall, and they were in perfect condition, which is really interesting. Now, the other interesting thing is, you would think that they would be some species like a gray, tall gray, maybe a aqua alien, aquafarian type, or maybe even Andromedan. There's all kinds, Arcturians, all kinds. No, they looked like they were human. And even though they might look like they're human, they might actually still be alien, right? From another planet. No, because when they looked in the ship, it was all English. Everything was written in English on the walls, carved in, right? Not just like written in Sharpie. The ship was made in English. The controls were made in English. It was as if somebody had gone into the future and brought this ship back. And they said, well, this doesn't make any sense. So they started doing more testing on the ship. And they discovered that everything that the ship was comprised of, chemically, was all composite from Earth, this Earth. All could have been created from this Earth. It wasn't stuff that was not from here. And then they also sat on the bodies. They froze them. They cryogenically froze them. They sat on the bodies for 50 years, and then they did some testing on them. And once we got DNA testing, right, like into the 2000s, then what we were able to do was do some DNA testing. And they found out that, in fact, the DNA almost identically matched with us. The only difference was that some of the chromosomes were just a little bit longer, according to Richard Doty. So these were actually our direct descendants from the future. And he said, I don't know how far into the future. It could have been 10,000, could have been 50,000, could have been 1,000 years. But what's interesting is, I mean, it couldn't have been that far into the future, right? Because languages change, and although English has been English for, thousands of years, well, English changes over time, right? Like the words that we kind of use for certain things do change. So it couldn't have been too crazy far. It couldn't have been like, I don't think it could have even been 10,000 years. I think it would have had to been either, from 0 to maybe 1,000 years difference. Because if you think about it right now, we're in the year 2026. Imagine going back to 1026. I don't even think we have, I mean, do we have anything in English, from that time period? Not a whole lot. I know there's old English stories, like the first story, first written document in English, I believe it was English, was Beowulf, at least what we were told. So it has to be from the not too distant future. How long would it take for our chromosomes to be a little bit longer than what they are now? I don't know. Not a chemist or a biologist. I don't know any of that. But what I do know is what they said. So they both Richard Doty and Emery Smith, both took solace in this story. You could see it in their eyes and what they said. And they said, we should all feel positive that we make it to a future where we are able to develop this technology and use it. And how far into the future is that? I don't know, because a lot of remote viewers state that they're not even able to see past the year 3000. So, I mean, that's not even 1,000 years away. And these guys are talking like this ship came from like possibly, 1,000 to almost 50,000 years into the future. So they both felt pretty good about it. So I don't know. It's it's a very interesting story. I'm excited to hear about it. I wanted to really share it with you guys and think about what it might mean for us. It is interesting that they kind of got shorter, or at least they were just using 5 foot tall, people. I don't know if there's a reason. I don't know. Maybe we had to go underground, cause, natural shortening if you had to go underground, I would imagine. You're not going to want to be 7 foot underground if there's short tunnels. But very fascinating stuff. Do you think that this is real? It crashed in Bulgaria. I mean, maybe there's some documentation in the newspaper from that time period we could look up, maybe. Maybe there's something that we can find. Doty's a great storyteller, but he's also been known to be a little sketchy in his stories and potentially be a liar and give misinformation. So you have to be a little bit careful with who you get your information from. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. So I appreciate you guys listening in, and take care of yourselves physically, spiritually, emotionally. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. And as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care. And Locked On Universe out. Peace.